What's that book you're reading?
It's about astronomy, black holes, planets, the Big Bang.
Not exactly a light read, but I suppose you like that sort of thing. Me, I like to relax when I read.
It's just, I read this article online the other day.
Uh-huh.
It was about this physicist. She discovered these things called pulsars, which are like, well, they're an incredible kind of star.
Uh-huh. She?
Yeah, her name's Jocelyn Bell Burnell. She's a respected physicist. Well, that's the thing. That's what got me interested. There aren't many women working in that area.
But hang on, she discovered these stars.
Yeah, she was a postgraduate student at the time, but the guy who was her supervisor got all the credit.
You're kidding.
No, he won the Nobel Prize.
So who did you say this woman was?
Jocelyn Bell Burnell.
But I've never even heard of her.
Well, no, that's the point. On this website, it talks about, well, it's got a whole lot of information on people like her. You know, people who work behind the scenes and don't get the credit or don't become famous. It was really interesting.
Yeah, I bet there are a lot of people like that.
I mean, she really is an inspiring woman. Even when she was at high school, they weren't going to let her join the science class.
When was this?
Back in the 50s.
Really? Even in the 50s?
Yeah. And then at the end of the year, she came top of her class. And when she was doing her PhD and made her amazing discovery, she had a young child and was having to manage a whole lot of things in her private life too. I mean, she was really determined, but in a quiet way. And then, when the newspapers wanted to interview her, they didn't want to know about her research. They just asked a lot of stupid questions about her height, her clothes, that sort of thing.
That's terrible, isn't it? So, is that a biography of her that you're reading?
Well, no, it's just a book about astrophysics.
Astrophysics? Just? So you're going to become, what, a rocket scientist or something?
Well, no. I don't know. The thing is, after I read the article, I found an interview with Jocelyn Bell Burnell online. And she was talking about how even today, there still aren't many women who go into science and become scientists.
So now you want to go back to university and do a physics degree?
Maybe. But you know, why not? I've always been good at science and I used to really enjoy physics.
But are you really prepared to study and put in all that effort?
Yeah, I think I am.
Well, you've always been motivated, that's for sure. And stubborn.
But I'm still thinking about it. Doing some reading, that kind of thing.
Well, actually, good on you. Why not make a change? Take a risk. I admire that.
Yeah. Actually, that's what she says in the interview. Be prepared to take a risk. You'll probably surprise yourself. And she said something else very simple about women wanting to be scientists. Go for it. And I thought, yeah, why shouldn't I?
Not many people can answer the question, what do you do, with the answer, spaceship designer. But Indian-born Susmita Mohanty can. A space entrepreneur, she has set up 3 companies in 3 different continents. Since 2008, Earth to Orbit, E2O, has helped companies outside India take part in launches of the Indian PSLV rocket. Before that, Susmita had established Liquefer, an aerospace design firm in Vienna. And while she was living in San Francisco in 2001, she set up Moonfront, an aerospace consulting firm. Susmita has always loved spaceflight. She has numerous degrees in engineering, design, and space studies that allow her to make connections between the worlds of technology, business, and architecture. Today, she is making science fiction become reality. Susmita is also a climate activist who makes satellite data on our planet available so that we can fight climate change. In the past few years, she has received recognition and awards from around the world. Susmita believes that in this century, space travel will be as important as air travel was last century.
So, Alison, you went to find out about the 30-day challenge. What is it and how does it work?
Yes, I went to a one-day seminar about it. The basic idea is that, according to psychologists, 30 days is about the time it takes to really develop a new habit, because that's how long it takes for our brains to shift to a new direction. So often, if we try something new, we give up after about a week or two because our brain hasn't adapted. So the idea of the 30-day challenge is you choose something you want to do, like drink less coffee, for example, and you keep going for exactly 30 days.
So, if you manage to do it for 30 days and you feel good about it, you'll probably keep to it. Is that the idea?
That's right, yes. But the other thing about it is that 30 days isn't a very long time. 30 days goes past quite quickly anyway. So if you decide to do something completely new, let's say you decide to get up at dawn every day and see the sunrise, maybe you wouldn't want to keep it up for your whole life, but it might be fun to do it for just 30 days. So it's also a chance to try something different. And if you're successful, it's great. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter too much.
I see. So it's not just about giving up bad habits. The idea is really that you try out something new.
Yes, very much so. There were people at the seminar, for example, who'd written a short poem every day for 30 days. And someone else had tried to eat something new every day for 30 days. So it's a chance to do something you've always wanted to do, or maybe something new that you'd never thought of doing.
It sounds a lot of fun if you've got time for it.
Yes, well, you can either do something that doesn't really get in the way of your life, like writing a poem. You can do that in your lunch break. It's easy. Or you can take time out and have a go at something you've always wanted to do, like paint a picture or climb mountains or something. Obviously, to do something like that, you need to make an effort, and of course you have to give yourself a time limit of 30 days.
So it sounds like you think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea, yes. I came away convinced.
So are you planning to try the 30-day challenge yourself?
Yes, in fact, I already am. I decided to put my car keys in a drawer and I'm going to cycle everywhere for 30 days, even if it rains.
And how's it going so far?
Really well. I'm finding it much easier than I expected.
And when did you start?
This morning.
Well, good luck with that, Alison. Now, Alison's only just started, but next up on the Life and Style podcast, we're going to talk to a few more people who've been doing the 30-day challenge. They're all about halfway through, and they've done it successfully so far.
Sophia.
What made you decide to become a vegan, Sophia?
Well, for quite a long time now, I've been trying to eat less meat, partly for health reasons. I think a plant-based diet is better for you.
Didn't you ever think of going vegan before?
Yes, but I always thought I'd miss meat too much. The idea of going vegan for 30 days was really good because I could give it a try and then see how I feel.
And how do you feel? Are you finding it difficult?
No, I feel really good. Actually, I don't miss meat or dairy at all. So I think I'll easily manage the 30 days and I might try to keep going longer.
Carla. Carla, why did you decide to draw something every day?
Well, I've never been very good at drawing, but I've always thought I'd like to start drawing things around me. It's one of those things that you think about doing, but you never get round to.
What have you drawn pictures of so far?
All kinds of things. At the beginning, I drew objects around me at home. Then I went out in my lunch break and started drawing things outdoors. Like yesterday, I drew a duck in the park. That was really difficult.
So do you feel like it's been worthwhile?
Oh yes, definitely. I'm still not very good at drawing, but it's been a lot of fun and it's very relaxing.
Steve. Steve, what language did you decide to learn? Well, I thought I'd choose a language that isn't too different from English, so I decided to try Italian. Isn't it difficult to keep it up? Yes, it is. I've had to be very strict with myself. I'm using a book with online support, so I usually try to cover one lesson a night. And who do you practice with? Or are you just studying alone? Well, there's an Italian restaurant nearby, and I'm friends with the owner, so I go there and chat to him. That's another reason I chose Italian. And do you think you'll keep going after the 30 days? Maybe. Or I might try a different language every month. I'm thinking of trying Japanese next.
That was a really interesting lecture. So much to learn, though. I'm going to try and get all my homework done tonight.
Oh, I'm going out tonight. Can't be bothered with homework. I'll do mine later. You always study too much. Do you want a coffee?
Sorry, I can't. I've got to go to work. It's my first day.
Oh, of course, at your cousin's cafe. Well, good luck. Oh, by the way, when's that assignment due?
Friday. Really must go now. I'll be late. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Hi, Tom. I'm just on my way to the cafe.
Oh, okay.
I'm late.
Look, this evening, do you want to come over? I wanted to talk over a few things about the wedding.
I'd love to, but I've got to study tonight.
Okay, never mind. Well, good luck with your first day at work.
Thanks, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Don't spill coffee over anyone.
I'll try not to. Oh, must run. Here comes my bus. No time to talk now. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay, so what was I showing you? The food. Sandwiches are all here. The most important thing is don't touch the food. Remember to always use these tongs to pick food up. And what else? Oh, the espresso machine. The coffee goes in here. Put a cup there, and you press this button. Is that clear?
Okay, I think I'll remember that.
Another thing to remember is the tables. They're all numbered, so it starts with 1 over there and goes round to 15. Okay, have you got that?
Yes, sure. I think I can count to 15.
I still get them mixed up myself. Say hello to Phil. He's our most regular customer. This is my cousin Becky. She's just started here.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Phil's writing a novel.
A novel? Amazing.
Well, it's just a science fiction story. I haven't got very far yet.
He comes to the cafe to write. We call him JK. Or, you know, like JK Rowling. She wrote the first Harry Potter book in a cafe.
Oh, right. There you are. Lovely to see you, Becky. We're really pleased you're working here.
Me too. I'm going to enjoy it, I'm sure.
Is my husband looking after you and explaining everything?
Oh, yes. I'm getting the hang of it. Slowly.
She's doing really well.
And I see you've met Phil. He's going to make the cafe famous one day. You'll see.
Large cappuccino, please, with extra milk.
With extra... Oh, Tom! Sorry, wasn't expecting you.
I was just passing by. How's it going?
There's a lot to learn, but I think I'll be okay. Is it okay if I take my break now?
Yeah.
I'll make a coffee for both of us.
Sure that's okay?
Yeah, it's fine. You came at a quiet time. So, what was it you wanted to talk to me about tonight?
The wedding?
The wedding.
Yes, a whole wedding?
Of course. We need to start thinking about it.
Gina.
Most people at work think my boss, Michaela, is an inspiring woman who's had an amazing career. We work for a public relations company. She always looks very busy, and people find that impressive. But I find her to be a bit arrogant, to tell you the truth. The other day, we were having a performance review meeting. She was reviewing me. And in the middle of the meeting, her phone rang. She answered the call and just ignored me. When she finished the call, she then spent a long time writing a text message on her phone while I was just sitting there, waiting. When she'd finished, she didn't apologize or anything and just said, "Okay, what were we talking about?" Maybe I'm being too sensitive, but she didn't seem to care about our meeting or me and was far more interested in her phone call and message. I really think people should turn off their phones during meetings. I was quite upset, to be honest.
Derek.
For years, I'd resisted joining any kind of social media. Don't get me wrong, I'm no technophobe. I use IT all the time. I shop online, I read the news online, I do most of my banking online. But social media just seemed like a waste of time. You know, people putting all this information about themselves online. I mean, I didn't feel like I needed to see a lot of photos of people I've never met and probably never will meet having a good time. However, my niece, Emma, really wanted me to join Facebook. She said I was the only one in the family not on it, and it's a great way for us to keep in touch. So she came over to my house and showed me how it works and how you can restrict the kind of contact you have. I own a small firm of accountants, and she pointed out that joining LinkedIn was a good way for me to network and get more clients. I could see her point, so in the end I joined both. And she was right. Social media is great for keeping in touch and finding out what's happening. I'm fairly careful about the way I manage it, so my Facebook friends are real friends. People I actually know in real life. And I don't post much stuff. But we've just got a really cute puppy and, well, I just had to share.
What does that notice mean?
Please read this sign. That doesn't make sense.
No, it must be a joke.
This is so uncomfortable.
Well, we'll just have to make the best of it. There's nowhere else to sleep.
Oh, look!
Be careful, it might bite you.
No, it wants to make friends with us. Come on.
What is it? Can you see?
No, I can't make out what it is. It's round and sort of green. And it's coming closer. Delia?
What?
This is to make up for last night. I really am sorry.
I don't want your flowers.
There, what do you think?
Lovely. It really makes a difference to the room.
Yes, it makes it grander somehow, don't you think?
Definitely.
I can't make up my mind. I like both of them.
Well, why don't you get them both then?
They are both very nice.
So, when are you off to South Africa?
End of next week. I can't wait to get away.
I absolutely loved it when I went there last year. So, what have you got planned?
You know, the usual things. Cape Town first. I'll definitely go to Robben Island.
Great.
And one thing I want to try while I'm there is surfing. Apparently, there are some really great schools you can go to.
Yeah, there are loads.
I've always wanted to learn how to surf, and I'll finally get to do it. You know, with proper waves. Cool.
That's a great thing to do. I went to one of those schools.
Was it good? Did you learn a lot?
Yeah, I did. But you've got to be a bit careful in the water there. Actually, I got into a bit of trouble once.
What? In the water?
Yeah. When I was first learning to surf, I went out one time by myself. I was trying to catch this wave, but I came off my board and stupidly, I'd forgotten to attach a leg rope from my ankle to the board.
So you lost the board?
Yeah. I tried to get hold of it, but it got swept away by the wave.
So what did you do? Just swim to the shore?
Well, sort of. I started swimming and I soon realised that I wasn't getting anywhere. Then very gradually, I got the feeling I was being pulled out to sea.
You were caught in a current?
Yeah. And when I realised this, I began to panic a bit. So I waved to get someone's attention. Luckily, a lifeguard had already seen that I was in trouble, and he came to rescue me in his lifeboat.
Bet you were pleased to see him.
Yeah. But the idea of being carried right out to sea is really frightening. I don't think you could survive very long. I'm quite a strong swimmer, but even so...
Yeah, I think you'd start to really feel the cold in the water.
Well, I was wearing a wetsuit, but they say if you get caught in a current, you shouldn't try and swim against it. The thing is, the water there is ocean, not sea. The waves are really powerful.
Maybe I'll have another think about it.
About surfing, you mean?
Yeah.
No, honestly, you'll love it. It really is the most amazing feeling. I just had a bad experience. I got myself a new surfboard, and as soon as I'd had some lessons and knew what I was doing, it was fantastic. It's just you and the board, and you have this incredible sense of freedom. And when you catch the wave at the right time.
Yeah, you're right. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Oh, but just watch out for sharks.
Yeah, I'll... Watch out for what?
Miles, tell us about the story. What happened?
Well, one day in the winter of 1997 in eastern Siberia, one of the wildest and most natural habitats on Earth, a hunter came across a Siberian tiger. He shot the tiger and wounded it, and then took part of the dead animal that the tiger was about to eat. Of course, the tiger wasn't happy. It attacked and killed Markov, but it didn't do this immediately. It waited 48 hours before attacking. In other words, it remembered what had happened and carefully planned the attack. So while Markov was away hunting, the tiger found its way to his hut in the forest and broke in through the door. The tiger then took Markov's mattress outside and laid on it, waiting for him to return. When Markov finally appeared, the tiger dragged him into the forest and ate him, leaving only his boots. They found the boots later and figured out what had happened.
So these are very dangerous animals, obviously.
Yes, very dangerous if you make them angry, certainly. They're also not just any tiger. They're the largest species of cat walking on Earth. The Siberian tiger is a very impressive animal. They can be up to 4 meters long, and they weigh more than 250 kilos. They can jump about 10 meters if they need to. So, imagine a creature that's as active as a cat and has the weight of an industrial refrigerator. That's what a Siberian tiger's like.
So what happened then?
Well, of course, a group of men hunted the tiger down and killed it.
I suppose they had to, really.
But did they?
What do you mean?
Well, when you read the story, you're not sure whose side you're on, the tigers or the humans. As Valent says, the tiger's response is quite logical, and the tiger is just trying to be a tiger. And it's a human who interferes with that.
So in a sense, it's the humans who are dangerous rather than the tiger?
In a way, yes. What's interesting is that humans and tigers hunt the same animals and share the same environment. And they've done this in Siberia for years, but they don't normally disturb each other. But if you make the mistake of attacking a tiger, you're in trouble. People who live in the area say this has never happened before. There is no record ever of a tiger hunting a human being.
So is that the message of the story? Leave tigers alone?
Well, yes. Don't make a tiger angry, certainly, or it will take revenge. But also, it makes you ask the question, which is the dangerous animal, tigers or humans? We think of tigers as dangerous, but of course, we're not at risk because of tigers. They're at risk because of us. There are 40 million humans, but only 500 tigers. So they really are an endangered species, and that's mainly because of us hunting them and living in their habitat and taking away their natural food.
Miles, thank you. You heard Miles Holman talking about the book The Tiger by John Valent.
Could you give me a hand with this, please, Tessa?
Sure.
I just can't get the right height.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Good shot?
Not really. I think I need to be closer. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Do you need all this equipment?
I find it helps.
Do you?
Usually. Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, much better than sitting in a lecture at college. All that theory.
Well, that can be interesting.
I'd really like to take a photo of something a bit more exciting. Maybe a squirrel.
A squirrel? That would be good. If we can find one.
Nice daffodils.
Gorgeous, aren't they? Can I have a look? Wow, what a great shot.
It's all right.
You know just how to get a really good shot. The light is amazing.
Thanks. Guess it's not bad. Can I have a look at yours?
It's pretty boring.
Don't you want me to?
No, I mean, it's not a problem. I just feel it's a pretty ordinary shot. You know, just nothing special compared to yours. Have you ever worked as a photographer?
Me? No. It was just something I kind of got into. Kind of a hobby. How about you?
No, never. I used to have this job working in HR, but I've just given that up.
Too stressful?
Sort of.
Or too boring?
Well, both. My cafe job's enough to pay the bills. Just. You?
I'm just studying at the moment. I haven't got a job.
Oh, right.
Shh.
What?
Squirrel. Over there.
Oh, right. Great.
You need to get a bit closer, but quietly.
You go first.
No, you go.
No, really, you should go.
It's fine. This is your shot.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no. Oh, it's run away. Oh, this is a really bad shot. The light's all wrong. I need a reflector.
Can I have a look?
I don't like it.
This is great.
Really?
Yeah. It's your best shot.
But I didn't have a chance to set it up.
Maybe sometimes you don't need to.
Okay. Maybe not. You know, one thing I don't like about this assignment.
What's that?
It's so cold.
Freezing, isn't it?
My flat's not far away. Do you fancy a nice warm cup of coffee?
Okay. Yeah, why not?
Great. Let's go.
I spent a year in Vancouver in Canada. I loved the national parks there. They're very special environments full of rare and protected plants and animals. This one particular day, I'd been exploring in the Pacific Rim National Park when I got in trouble in the forest. I'd been to see this waterfall. It was a very easy walk from the main track, less than an hour. On the way back, I saw what I thought was a shortcut that would get me back to the main track more quickly. A big mistake. After a couple of hours, I realized that I was going round in circles and I wasn't getting anywhere. I'd got completely lost. I was beginning to get worried, that's for sure. All I had to eat was an energy bar and I had nothing to drink. Well, I waited until later in the afternoon because then I knew the sun would go down in the west and I knew roughly I should be going in an easterly direction. And I had a bit of luck. I came across a stream with fresh water. I followed the stream for a bit and I came to an open area, a kind of a clearing. I knew that eventually people would start looking for me. I'd told the forest ranger when I would be back, and I was more than 4 hours late. And I knew it's better to sit in one place where you can be seen. So I was sitting quietly and thinking about how I could spend the night in the forest, and I suddenly had this strange feeling I was not alone. I looked around the clearing, and on the edge of it I saw a bear looking at me. I knew that you shouldn't run away or show fear. I stood up and said in a clear voice, "I have a right to be here," and moved slowly backwards without looking at the bear in the eyes. I could sense the bear watching me. I tried to keep calm, but inside I was really panicking. I was terrified. Suddenly, it started moving. Thankfully, it was away from me. It just disappeared back into the forest. I didn't know if I should stay where I was or keep moving. But then I could hear a helicopter in the distance coming towards me. I thought it might be looking for me. I jumped up and tried to see it, but it flew away before I could get its attention. It was so frustrating. But about 15 minutes later, it flew back and I was ready. I took off my jacket and turned it inside out. The lining was red and easy to see. This time they saw me and waved back. About a half an hour later, rescuers arrived and guided me out. What I couldn't get over is the fact that I was only 10 minutes away from the main track.
My teacher will get angry if I make mistakes.
I don't really think that's the case. Teachers really do prefer students who try hard, make an effort. It doesn't matter if they make mistakes. In fact, it's better if they do, because if we know what their mistakes are, we can help fix them.
Children learn faster than adults.
I guess you could say that children aren't as busy as adults. They probably have a bit less going on in their lives, and that helps. They're less distracted and, you could say, a bit more open to learning. But adults, well, they often have really good motivation. They are often quite focused and they're really keen to learn. So this motivation can make them faster learners than children.
I must practice every day in order to make progress.
Well, in my experience, you can practice too much. It's actually better to take 2 or 3 days off each week. The thing is, our brains need a bit of a rest. It's like muscles when you're doing physical exercise. You need to rest them. So we need to rest our brains when we're learning and practicing something new.
If something seems very easy, I must be doing it wrong.
Yep, a lot of people believe this, but I think the opposite is true. In reality, if it's easy, it probably means you're doing it right. But if something's difficult or it's a physical activity that's causing you pain, then you're probably doing something wrong. Learning doesn't always need to be hard.
Long practice sessions are best.
It's much, much better to have shorter practice sessions. You've got to remember that most people get tired after about 15 minutes and they need a short break. The thing is, though, during the 15 minutes of practice, you really want people to concentrate on what they're doing
really focus. They'll get more benefit that way.
Seamus.
Ever since I was first able to read, I've loved comic books. I just think it's a brilliant way of telling a story. I've read literally thousands of them. But at the same time, I discovered I was quite good at drawing. When I was about 8 years old, I started copying some of the pictures in comics, and even my parents were surprised by how good my copies were. It wasn't long before I started making up my own stories. All of my friends were also really into comics, but none of them tried coming up with their own stories. But they quite liked reading mine, so I'd share the comics I wrote with them. This was helpful because it gave me a good idea of what worked and what didn't. I studied design at university and then got a job as a graphic designer. But all the time I was writing and drawing my own comics. Comics for adults and children. I've just signed a contract with a major comics publisher in the USA, and I can now give up my job as a graphic designer. I think my career in comics is beginning to take off. Well, I hope to do really well. 10,000 hours? You bet. I've probably spent more time than that, but I loved every minute of it.
Fiona.
I'm a chemist, and I've been lucky enough to get a research position at a university. I love chemistry because it's all about the things that make up the world we live in. I find it fascinating. It's funny, whenever I say that I'm a chemist, one of the first things people mention is the table of elements. You know, all the symbols for all the different metals and gases. They can never figure out all those symbols. Well, I have this system where the letter or letters remind me of the name of a person. And that reminds me of a face, and something about the way he or she looks reminds me of the element. One colleague pointed out that this wasn't a very scientific way of remembering these elements. In fact, some scientists look down on this kind of thing, but it works for me. I find all these ways of making your memory stronger really interesting, and I think making associations to help you remember is really useful. I have to remember so much information in my research work, so I want to look into these techniques in more depth.
Henry.
I'm a musician. I play saxophone in a band. We're just about to go on a tour, so we're practicing full time to get ready. We've got so much to do before the tour, so much that it's getting us all down a bit. Apart from needing to practice playing together, we've got to write some new songs and learn some others. I read about this idea of learning different things at different times of the day, so we decided to try it out and see if it'd help. So now we focus on writing new material in the morning, and we also use that time to learn the words and music of some classic songs we want to play, actually studying the notes and remembering the words of songs. After lunch, we play together, do the physical learning, and I have to say it's working pretty well. We're putting in a lot of work and we feel we're using the time well. The songs are getting easier to remember, and I think our playing in the afternoon is tighter. We're producing a better sound. The only problem is that some days we get a bit carried away in the afternoon and keep playing into the evening, which means we stay up late and aren't so good in the morning.
This week on The Book Show, we're talking about David Epstein's The Sports Gene, in which he claims that many sports professionals are so good simply because they're lucky enough to have the right genes. According to him, top athletes and other sportsmen are simply different from the rest of us. With us is athlete Barbara McCallum, who is a professional runner and trainer. Barbara, you've read the book. Do you think Epstein is right? Is it all about having the right genes?
Well, I think he's right that genes are important, and of course we all know that many Kenyans are tall and thin and so on, and also, as the book says, they live at a high altitude, 1,000 metres, so they have more red blood cells. So these things are important, but I think there's much more to it than that.
You've lived in Kenya yourself.
Yes, I've lived in Kenya myself and I've trained with Kenyan runners. I've also worked with Kenyan children, and there really are lots of very good runners in Kenya. But it's not just about having long legs. They also have a culture of running. Everyone runs, even small children, so they have this background. They all see themselves as runners, as good runners. And if you're poor in Kenya, becoming an athlete is a way to change your life. So everyone wants to be a runner.
And they run in bare feet. Does that help?
Yes, it does. It gives you a much better running technique, so that's important too. So yes, I think it is partly genetic, but it's also to do with lots of other factors, like having lots of practice, lots of encouragement to run, believing in yourself, and also learning to run in the right way.
So, could I run as fast as a Kenyan?
Well, yes, you could, but you'd have to start early in life and you'd have to get very fit.
Well, I haven't run anywhere for years, so maybe it's a bit too late to start.
Absolutely not. It's never too late. Start training now and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve.
Thank you, Barbara. Well, also with us now is Marta Fedorova. Marta, you've been playing tennis since you were a child, and you've been a professional player for 10 years.
Yes.
You've also read the book. Do you think he's right? Are some sports people naturally better? Or is it a question of technique and practice, as Barbara says?
Well, yes. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. I used to think that it was mainly practice and technique that were important. You know, if you practice a lot, if you get fit, if you improve your technique, then you'll win. But after reading this book, I'm not so sure. For example, I've played maybe 50 serious matches this year, and I've won about half of them. If I think about the people who beat me, they all have certain things in common physically. Short bodies but longer arms, for example.
Like you.
Well, yes, I suppose so. And very good eyesight, obviously, and mostly aged 18 to 25. And these are things that you can't really change. So yes, there is something in it.
So sport isn't as fair as we like to think.
That's right. And that's really what he's saying in this book. When we watch the Olympics, for example, we think it's a fair competition between equals, but it isn't. We're watching a competition between very different types of people who have different natural advantages.
So there will be people who need to train very hard to get where they are, and others who don't need to train so much. And there will be some people who can naturally finish 40 seconds ahead of all the others, and so on. So fairness in sport doesn't really exist.
So when are you going to tell your parents about your promotion?
This weekend, I think. We're seeing them on Saturday, remember?
Oh, yes. Anyway, as I was saying about Tessa...
Tessa, yes, your classmate.
She's just got this amazing natural ability.
So have you.
But I've been taking photos for years.
Very good ones, too.
And I've gradually got better, but Tessa...
Maybe she's been practicing for years, too, in secret. So, what's for dinner, then?
Well, I got some cheese, some chicken, and some salad.
Cheese? You mean the one on offer?
Yeah, 2 for 1. Bargain.
Yeah, it was a bargain. That's why I got some.
Well, I guess I know what we're having for dinner.
Cheese on toast.
Cheese on toast.
Anyway, as I was saying about the wedding, I was thinking we should start making some decisions if we want to get married in June.
Yes, you're right.
So, what do we need to think about?
Well, the usual things. Guests, a venue for the reception, the cake.
So maybe the first thing to decide is...
Who should we invite?
I mean, do we want a large wedding with lots of guests or just a small one?
How about we invite no one?
What?
We could just have a secret wedding. Go to Las Vegas in America or something like that.
Seriously?
It's an idea.
Seriously, Becky, don't you think it's a good idea to set a limit? Say no more than 80 guests?
Yes, I suppose it is.
Okay.
And Tessa?
Sure. We can invite her.
Well, yes, but I was thinking we'll need a photographer.
Well, yes.
But don't you agree that Tessa would be perfect as the photographer?
Becky, that's kind of an unnecessary detail right now.
Yes, of course.
To go back to the guests...
So, how many relatives and how many friends?
So, if we just invite close family and friends...
We'll have to invite Aunt Claire.
Your mad Aunt Claire?
We have to invite her.
Of course, we could sit her next to my Uncle Fred.
But he never says anything.
Exactly, the perfect pair.
Who else? What about the people you work with?
I don't know about that.
We could always invite them to the evening reception.
Don't you agree it'd be easier not to invite them?
But I would like to invite Tessa.
As I said, that's fine. Anyway, I think we need to limit it to close friends and family members, even the scary ones.
I sort of get both excited and nervous when I think about it.
It'll be fine. The next question is where?
Well, there's that lovely old hotel, you know, near where my cousin lives.
Oh, Regent's Lodge.
Actually, thinking about where, after we're married, where are we going to live?
That's a good question.
What you might call a necessary detail.
This is Marco Forlan reporting from the multi-million-pound Market Street Sports Complex. It's huge. It's got so many different courts for different sports, tracks for athletics and cycling. It's even got its own indoor snow slope. It's been up and running for a year now, so I've come down to see just how much use it's getting. So, Lizzie, you haven't been doing this long, have you?
No, just over 6 months.
And before that?
Well, nothing. I was one of those people who was pretty hopeless at sport at school. In basketball, I could never catch the ball very well, and I couldn't throw it far enough. And I've never been a fast runner.
So you were always last to be picked for a team.
Yeah, that was me. Everyone else was so much more talented and they looked down on me. But I wanted to do some kind of exercise, and to be honest, I almost don't consider this a sport. It's just something I used to do to get to school. I train 4 days a week now, and I do a mix of track and open road. It's my favourite part of the day.
And in the future?
Oh, next month I'm going to compete in a race. It's just a small, local one, but it gives me a goal to aim for. I've been training quite hard for the past 6 months now. I train here on the track, but also on the open road.
Good luck with your race. Hey, Barry, that was quite an impressive jump.
Thanks.
So, how long have you been doing this?
Just over a year. I took it up after I recovered from a foot injury. You see, I used to run marathons, but now I find it really uncomfortable to run long distances.
And did you get started here at the centre?
Yeah, that's right. In the beginning, I was just having fun, and then I realised I was quite good at it. What I enjoy is it's mostly about skill and the way you use your whole body. It's not just about strength.
And have you ever tried it out in the open?
Yeah. Last winter I went to France and had my first go on real snow. I met a lot of amazing people there, including a few professionals. They told me that I've got a naturally good style.
Any plans for the future?
I'm going to compete in some championships this winter, and I've just bought myself this new board. I just wish we had real mountains in England.
That's a great looking board. Have fun. That was a pretty energetic game, Patricia.
Yeah, it was fun.
So, you're new to the game?
Yeah, I started about 9 months ago.
How did you get into it?
I took it up because I wanted a sport for myself. You see, I've spent the past 6 or 7 years taking my 2 children to different sports events. They're older now and can get to sports practice on their own. So I had to figure out what I'd like to do.
How did you decide?
Well, I was always quite good at basketball, but I wanted to try something new. And I wanted a sport that would get me fit, and this certainly does. Once I'd looked into a range of options, the choice was easy.
This is a fairly new sport in the UK.
Yeah.
So how is it different from basketball?
Well, you can actually take 3 steps with the ball, so long as you do it in 3 seconds.
That's not long. And how often do you practice?
Once a week, and then we have a friendly game. I enjoy the social side of things as much as the competing. Next year, my team's thinking about entering some championships.
Well, I hope you continue to enjoy it.
Oh no, there's glass all over the floor.
Well, you dropped it, so I think you should clear it up.
I can't, I've got to go. Couldn't you do it, please?
What does potential mean?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I'll tell you in a minute.
Did you manage to learn Spanish?
Yeah, it was easy. I picked it up in about 6 months. But I never really learned the grammar.
I think we should talk about having longer lunch breaks. 30 minutes is much too short.
Yes, I agree. Why don't you bring it up at the meeting tomorrow?
Monica, is it true that being very rich doesn't make you happy? People often say this, but is it really true?
No, it's not. In fact, there was some research done quite recently at Harvard University where they studied 4,000 millionaires. And they found that the people with $10 billion or more were much happier than the people with about 1 or 2 million. So, having a lot of money actually seems to make people happy. But what they also found was that people who'd made their own money were much happier than people who'd inherited it or people who had got rich by marrying into a wealthy family, say.
So it's better to make your own money?
Definitely, yes, if you can.
What about suddenly having a lot of money? Say, if you win the lottery or you suddenly inherit money from someone who dies. Does that influence people's behaviour? You often hear stories of how it makes people unhappy.
Well, you do hear stories like that, yes, but they're just isolated cases. In fact, winning doesn't usually have a negative influence on people. Of course, people like to believe that winning money leads to disaster because that makes them feel better about not winning. But the idea that winning a lot of money causes misery is actually a myth. It's simply not true.
There have been studies done on this, haven't there?
Yes, that's right. According to most studies, suddenly having a lot of money is just as likely to have a positive effect on you as a negative effect. And most people don't, in fact, spend all their money.
Can you give us some examples?
Yes. For example, a recent study looked at how much of their money people spent if they won the lottery. And it found that people spent a lot in the first 5 years, but very few people spent all the money in their lifetime, only about 2 to 3%. So most people do spend a lot, but they save a lot as well. And then there was an interesting study in California, and they measured how happy people are as a result of winning the lottery. And they found that people feel very happy when they win, which isn't surprising. But as they adjust to the idea of being rich and go back to normal again after a few months, they end up feeling just the same as before. So, over the long term, getting richer doesn't actually affect how happy you are. You just stay the same, but with more money, of course.
So, if you're happy anyway, you'll stay happy even if you get rich. Is that the message?
Yes, that's right. Money won't make you happy, but it won't stop you from being happy either. And studies have shown that it depends on how you spend the money. So people who buy a lot of things like clothes or houses or cars are often not very happy. As soon as you have a car, you want a better car, and so on. So that doesn't make you happy for long. But spending money on experiences usually results in longer-term happiness.
Experiences?
Yes, for example, going on a holiday of a lifetime or doing something you've always wanted to do. That'll make you happy while you're doing it, and it'll make you happy later because you also have good memories of it. So it's a better way to try and be happy.
OK, so there we have it. When you win that £5 million, forget the cars and the new house and go on a long holiday instead.
Alfonso.
For me, the thing that's changed my life most is having a baby. Things are just completely different now. We used to go out a lot. We used to travel as well. We'd go somewhere different every year, and we didn't used to care much about money. We both had good jobs, and we had a small flat in town, so we didn't need to care about money very much. But now, of course, the baby's the most important thing. So I'd say I've become a bit more cautious than I used to be. I used to be quite an adventurous person. I used to take all kinds of risks without thinking much about it. Whereas now, I think more about having a family, having a home, having a steady job, things like that. It sounds terribly boring, doesn't it? But it doesn't feel boring.
Dragoner.
A very big change in my life was going abroad to study. I grew up in Croatia in a fairly small town, and I went to university there. But then I had the chance to go to Berlin for a year to study. And of course, I had a good time there and I made new friends, but I think it also changed the way I look at life. Before I went, I was quite shy and not very self-confident, and I had quite a protected life, I suppose. And then in Berlin, I had to look after myself and also adapt to a new culture, of course. And as a result of being there, I think I no longer see everything from a Croatian point of view, but more internationally. So I'm much more open to different ideas than I used to be. I hope so, anyway.
Miranda. I think the hardest part of drama school was actually getting into it. The audition process took forever. First of all, we had to perform 2 scenes from plays, one modern, one Shakespeare. Then we got called back to do the scenes again. I was supposed to prepare a song as well, but they forgot to let me know. So I just sang the first song that came into my head. Can't even remember what it was. After that, there was a workshop for a day where they made us work on new scenes from plays and do movement and voice classes. After all of that, I felt really lucky to get selected. There's no doubt the training was very thorough. I mean, we did everything. The usual voice and movement classes, but also specialised things, like learning how to pretend to fight on stage. I really enjoyed those classes. The tutors were all very different. Some were really strict and tough. For example, we had a movement teacher, and in her class we weren't allowed to talk or use our voices in any way. That was really difficult. But our voice teacher was really relaxed. She was cool. During my second year, I went through a bit of a difficult time because I wasn't sure if acting was what I really wanted to do. I mean, drama school is a huge sacrifice. The training sort of swallowed my life. Like, I lived it every single moment of the day. I kind of felt like I wasn't having what you'd call a normal life for a 20-year-old. The school was really flexible about this, and they let me take a couple of weeks off to make up my mind. I decided to keep going, and I'm glad that I did. I graduated last year, and I've got an agent, and I've just got a small part in a production at the Royal Shakespeare Company. So I guess you could say I'm on my way. Fred.
I got into a football academy when I was 11 years old. I was playing at my local club, and a scout from a professional club saw me and invited me to play in a trial match. I was really excited about this. My parents had their doubts. They were worried about me not having a normal childhood, but they could see this was a pretty unique opportunity, so they let me do it. Dad was really pleased about one thing. We were allowed to see all the club games for free. But I don't think any of us really understood just how difficult a commitment it would be. Mum and Dad were more or less forced to act as my chauffeurs, and they had to drive me to practice 3 times a week and then to a match every Sunday. I had to do this and keep up with my school homework at the same time, and that meant I often wasn't allowed to go out and play with my friends when I wanted to. Still, in the academy we had the best coaches, and there's no doubt that my playing got so much better. We also used to watch videos of matches all the time and analyse the strategy of the different players. I enjoyed this a whole lot more than I thought I would. In fact, one of the coaches once told me that this was one of the reasons why I stood out from some of the other boys in the academy. It's a really competitive environment, and at the end of every year, there were some boys who were forced to give it all up because they didn't get invited back for the following year. I had one mate, Jack. We started at the same time, but when we turned 16 and it became possible for some of us to earn a salary, Jack wasn't selected. And it was like the previous 5 years were all for nothing. And he was like my best mate, and I really missed him. I did get selected though, and now I've got a full professional contract, so things are pretty good. Did I have a normal childhood? No, probably not. I kind of regret that, but then I've been given an opportunity, haven't I? I guess you can't have it both ways.
Now let's have a look at some of the most successful ones. Tessa took this one.
We really like the way the light is hitting the tree.
And here's a similar shot, but from a different angle with a plane crossing the sky. We got some close-ups of flowers. We managed to get some good shots of daffodils.
The light was really good for this one.
And we were lucky and managed to get a couple of wildlife shots. Here's a shot of a swan that Tessa took. And finally, my shot of a squirrel. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Becky and Tessa. Some very good work. There were some interesting close-up shots there. Very sharp details and clear colours. Yes, a very good first assignment. Well done, both of you. Okay, now for your next assignment. Bridges. Pick a bridge that you like, photograph it, and then write an essay to go with it. Okay? We'll see how you get on. You've got 1 month.
That went quite well.
Yeah.
It was fun. So, bridges for our next assignment.
Yes, bridges. So boring.
Oh, I don't know. It's not that boring. All that fantastic architecture. It could be quite interesting.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I'm not sure. There's all that theory for the essay. I didn't take any notes in yesterday's lecture.
Don't worry, I took loads of notes. You can borrow mine.
Can I?
Sure. Come round to the cafe later and I'll give them to you. Must go now. Bye.
Bye. Yes, bridges. So boring.
Oh, I don't know. It's not that boring. All that fantastic architecture. It could be quite interesting.
I thought the goalkeeper was useless. He was the weakest player in the team.
Really? Did you think so? I thought he played quite well.
€60 for fish and a salad? That's far too much.
I'm not sure about that. It doesn't seem that expensive.
Did you see that bank managers earn an average of 100,000 a year? It's crazy.
I know what you mean, but on the other hand, it's a very responsible job.
She's having a fancy dress party on her birthday. How boring.
Oh, I don't know. I think it could be quite good fun.
It was a very boring film. I thought it was far too long.
Yeah, maybe you're right, but I enjoyed some bits of it.
I thought that was a really interesting lecture.
Oh, I don't know. It wasn't that interesting.
I find photography a very difficult subject.
Oh, I don't know. It's not that difficult.
Look at that bridge. It's so unusual.
Oh, I don't know. It's not that unusual.
I thought the questions in the exam were incredibly easy.
Oh, I don't know. It wasn't that easy.
Here you are. My lecture notes.
Oh, great. Thanks.
And these.
Thank you.
And here are some other notes I made earlier.
Okay, thank you. Plenty to read here.
It's not too much, is it?
Well, no, thank you. You've saved my life.
Don't worry, that's okay. I'm more into the theory than you are.
You can say that again. I hate it.
By the way, Tom and I were sorting out details of the wedding last night.
Oh, yeah?
And, well, we thought, if you're interested, we'd love you to take the photos.
Me? Are you serious?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I'm not... I don't think I'm good enough.
Oh, don't be silly. Of course you are. Oh, will you, please?
Well, yes. If you want me to. I mean, I'd love to.
Great. Better get back to work.
Oh, no!
What is it, Phil?
I've just deleted the whole chapter. I only meant to delete the paragraph.
Oh, no.
Who's that?
That's Phil. He's always here. He's writing a book. Well, trying to, anyway, when he isn't accidentally deleting his work.
A writer? That's interesting.
See you later.
Hi. Becky tells me you're writing a book?
Sort of.
That's great. I like books. I'd like to see what you've written anyway. I'm sure it's really good.
Thanks. I haven't written much yet.
Oh, well, I'd better let you get on. Bye.
Bye.